Once upon a time, there was a basketball player who was shooting free throws in the opposing team's arena. All of a sudden, he sees a guy in the crowd showing the finger, with both hands, trying to distract him. The player thought of the notion as disrespect and wanted to confront the individual in the stands as he recalled a saying from his father, "You have a right to not let anyone disrespect you." Going into the stands, ready to confront the fan, the player asked him, "Why are you disrespecting me?" And before attempting to punch the guy, the fan responded, "Sir, I don't know you. I'm just more concerned about distracting you enough to miss those 2 free throws, because if you do, everyone in attendance will win free chicken nuggets tomorrow at McDonald's." Friends, you and I can tell that not all advice that we receive is conducive to our freedom, peace, and well-being. Sometimes it is misguided. Sometimes we take action in a way that we shouldn't. Yes, it's not right for anyone to disrespect us, but what do we do with that disrespect? Do we take action, or do we allow the Lord's action to be enough? Truly, not all situations are the same, but in the case with the basketball player, his life wasn't threatened, and the gesture did not add or take away from who he is and the job that he came to do. Just play the basketball game and go home. Brothers and sisters, if all that you and I ever did was to focus on what we truly need, it would be sufficient for us. And what we need is to do the will of God. And this will, that of God's, will provide for us in ways more than we can ever imagine. The gospel, according to John today, highlights the gift of God's attention to the need of man to be cared for. And sometimes we feel that we are all alone in life. Other times we forget that God is present because we're busy doing our own thing and living life with so much ease, acting without much reflection and acting without much thought. In fact, because of the Olympics, I am reminded of a funny yet necessary reality. Did you know that there are lifeguards at swim competitions? You would think that wouldn't be necessary, huh? But you can never be too sure, apparently. Friends, truly, God is the security that is necessary for man's survival, even when we think we have it all under control. Friends, God's security looks out for the needs of others. God's security is not doubtful. God's security is not limited to quantity. God's security is not thrown off by our demand. God's security is not limited to the opinion of the naysayers, because the naysayers will always say nay. Notice how the best version of yourselves mirrors this security of God, because when we care and love from the very depths of our hearts, we can do the impossible, going the farthest mile to make sure that the ones we love are secure and taken care of. Fortunately for us, this trait that we all have comes from the same God in whom we participate in his own image and likeness. However, God is calling you to first witness and receive and be sustained by him. And this practice of being sustained by him enables you and me to do the impossible, to sacrifice and lay down our life. As illustrated by the attention of Christ in the security of his love, he offered a solution. In providing the loaves and fish for the thousands, we see that God provides for our needs and does so in abundance. Too often you and I depend upon our own very selves or on others to save us, instead of the God who always remains present. Too often we settle for temporary riches to satisfy our thirst, when in actuality, that Porsche 911 Turbo S going fast on an early Sunday morning before I celebrate the 7 a.m. Mass with no one else on the road, with me behind the wheel, of course, that will never be as satisfying as giving thanks to the Lord. Needless to say, friends, the small treats of the world aren't necessarily bad, but they will never satisfy the needs of man. And if it is our goal and our desire to settle upon these needs, then we are settling ourselves short and probably don't even realize who we are and the greatness Jesus seeks to achieve through you and me. What are you saying, Father Houston? Well, the only life worth living is a life of sacrifice. Sacrifice assumes that the beneficiary may not be able to pay us back, maybe not even with a thank you, and that is okay because we sacrifice because of who we are. We share in the same oneness with one another. Such was the reason why Christ decided to leave the area after performing the miracle, because they wanted to carry him off as king. Notice how they weren't necessarily wrong. Jesus Christ is king, but they did not know of what kingdom. They did not understand the purpose. They were made not for survival, but for glory. And friends, the path of glory, the path to glory is sacrifice. Friends, Jesus Christ demonstrates that on the cross for you and me. So too must we be as we walk through life, knowing that though it's tough, a life well lived is a life offered to the Lord. And this can take the form of various vocations, be it as a mom or as a dad, husband, wife, priest, religious. Notice how none of these tasks are easy, and oftentimes things don't work out the way we like. But the Lord in his presence is active, alive, and definitely present. Notice how Jesus instructs his disciples to gather the fragments so that nothing is left behind. We do the same at Mass, for instance, when communion is distributed and there is leftover. Every fragment is gathered and saved and then shared for another time and for another need for the good of us all. So too are your talents, friends, and your very selves, because nothing goes to waste. The Lord sees it and knows it all. Every sacrifice, every toil, every good memory is something that the Lord uses to show forth his glory. May we be present to that glory today and always, because being present to our own glory simply will not suffice. The disciples at the readings of today, friends, were stuck being prisoners of the moment. You and I may do that as we constantly worry about the world around us, as we constantly remain anxious about providing. May we, friends, as disciples of the kingdom of love, have the courage to be prisoners of the love of Jesus, because this type of sacrificial love gives us freedom.